The world's most comfortable shoes are made of wool. Even Tab Magazine said so. The Wool Runner is your go-to lace-up shoe for everywhere you go. Flexible, supportive, and light as a feather, they take you seamlessly through your entire day. The Wool Lounger, it's a breathable, lightweight, slip-on shoe that's perfect for everything from a red-eye trip across the country or your favorite sport event. Comfort, style, and sustainability do not have to be mutually exclusive. Allbirds is dedicated to making stylish, comfortable footwear using premium natural materials designed for life's everyday adventures. Less is more, which is why Allbirds doesn't include any unnecessary logos or detailing. Instead, Allbirds designs the simplest, most comfortable shoe they could using premium sustainable materials without the premium price. Allbirds textile is made from superfine New Zealand merino wool using fibers that are 20% the diameter of a human hair. Think about that. So unlike the wool you may be used to, Allbirds breathable fabric regulates temperature and moisture without any itch. Allbirds merino wool is ZQ certified. That means it meets the stringent standards of sustainable farming and animal welfare. In other words, no sheep were harmed in the making of these shoes. With the holidays right around the corner, it's time to consider Allbirds as a gift for someone on your list or just for yourself. They're available in a variety of new colors. You can find the perfect pair for you at allbirds.com.
Want an easy way to see if you could save money on car insurance? Geico gives you 3. Call 1-800-947-AUTO. Go online to geico.com or stop by the Geico office nearest you. 3 ways you could save 15% or more.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head the deck. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood. Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me a boom.
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, dog?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in.
And we are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio. What do we do, Mr. Rose?
We get to find individuals that have supported this program around 5 years, exactly what they want, when they want it, when they need it.
The people saw Kyrie Irving have a statement game in Game 4 in Cleveland. What did that game from Kyrie tell you?
It didn't tell me much because for those who've been watching the league, I think what happened to Kyrie was that here's a player that played 10 games at Duke, was injured, got drafted as the number 1 overall pick. There's a reason why you're in the lottery, because your team stinks. All of a sudden, they make a couple of moves that don't necessarily pan out. You draft Anthony Bennett. Deion Waiters was pretty good in Cleveland. Tristan Thompson is still on that roster. And then all of a sudden, LeBron James returns. And so you go from being a guy that was already an all-star, already a Team USA performer, already a max contract player, to now somebody that rightfully so need to play second fiddle to LeBron James on the basketball floor because he's a 4-time MVP, a 3-time champion, and universally known as the best player in the game. But Kyrie's game has continued to evolve. And if you look 2 years ago at the NBA Finals, it may look a lot different had he not got hurt in Game 1, because he was playing well. Yep. Injuries are part of the game. The Golden State Warriors had a terrific season. They deserve to win the championship. The next year, yes, Draymond Green got suspended for Game 5. Bogut was injured. Andre Iguodala was injured. Steph Curry was banged up. Who knows who would have won? I think the Warriors would have won had any of those things not taken place. But the Cavs win. So now all of a sudden you're on a collision course for these two teams to have the first trilogy in NBA Finals history. So what do I see different in Kyrie Irving? Nothing. But what the world now sees is the fact that, wait a minute, the last 4 minutes of the game, they're giving the ball to Kyrie to make plays for himself and others, not LeBron James. And so now that that's happening, people starting to examine the scenario as it takes place in Cleveland a lot closer.
They famously went to Kyrie with a huge possession to win the NBA Finals in Game 7. They also went to Kyrie just a few nights ago in that tight Game 3. What do you think they do this for?
They do this because he's a terrific isolation basketball player, in particular on the right wing, whether it's shooting a 3 off the bounce or getting all the way to the hoop. There isn't a guy that jumps off both feet, finishes with both hands, barely has lift, as well as Kyrie Irving, that I recall seeing in a really long time. And because he's a 50% from the floor, 40% from 3, and 90% from the free throw line, you have to acquiesce if you're LeBron James. Like, you know what? Get that guy the ball, because I'm here to play winning basketball. And when LeBron James left Cleveland to go to Miami, yes, he wanted to get a championship pedigree and learn it from Pat Riley and Dwayne Wade and the Heat organization that did it before he got there. But also in his return, in his letter, he left out Andrew Wiggins for a reason. Because he was going back to play with Kyrie and to play with Kevin Love. Had those moves not been in place, I don't think coming home would be as attractive. So now that he's back, they're both willing to sacrifice, and Kyrie's doing a terrific job of closing games.
LeBron said this about Kyrie Irving, quote, "He was built for this. He was born for these moments." What does he mean by that?
What he means is the big stage, the playoff moments, things that he didn't get a chance to perform on before LeBron James came. And it's been talked a lot about Kyrie being mentored by Kobe Bryant. Here's a distinction that I bet that they've discussed off wax that probably should stay that way, that Kyrie kind of alluded to in the post-game conference, is that I do dream about this being my team. And when he said that, as somebody that played a lot against Shaq and Kobe, it reminded me of something. The first 3 quarters, you could get a ball to Shaq, but in the fourth quarter, they went to Kobe because he was more efficient and a better free throw shooter. I'm seeing that play out in a different way in this scenario. LeBron James isn't a good free throw shooter. And so because of that, they give the ball to Kyrie to close basketball games. So when I see those two parallels, they make sense to me.
LeBron James had 34 points, but didn't really seem like himself. He picked up 4 fouls in the first half for the first time in his career. Is it possible that we've seen 2 off games in a row from LeBron?
You saw 1 off game, not 2. Game 3, when he had 0 points in the fourth quarter, that's a bad game. In Game 4, where they now lead the series 3-1, you saw he, along with Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving, combined for 93 points. That's the most that they've combined for in the game since they've been teammates. And again, he did have 15 points in the fourth quarter. It wasn't like it was a 1 or 2 possession game, so it didn't probably give you the impact watching the game. But they needed all of those points, and more importantly, they really needed to win that game.
Richard Jefferson went on wax and said that LeBron James was sick during that poor performance in Game 3. If that is true, why wouldn't he tell us that?
I'm not buying what Richard Jefferson's selling, because what ends up happening is when the player is sick, a la Michael Jordan against the Utah Jazz, and he has a heroic game, then we heap praise upon that person based on the fact that he was able to perform and he wasn't at his best. Once you put on your uniform and lace up your shoes, no excuses.
Should Ty Lue have taken LeBron James out of the game in the first half after he had 3 fouls?
Not at all. And for those alluding to it, just look at it like this. Did he foul out?
No.
Okay, that's the answer to that question. You don't think he's going to get his 4th foul because he's LeBron James. It's the NBA playoffs and he's playing at home. So when he does get his 4th foul, you're looking at him like you put yourself in that position, but you're also looking at the refs like, y'all just called a foul on LeBron James to take him out of the game? And we're down double figures. Enter Kyrie, enter Kevin Love. The difference in their run last year to this year, besides all of the depth that they've acquired, is that he's now playing like an all-star level player, something that he wasn't doing last year in the playoffs.
Kevin Love has done very well this year. That is a bit of a different wrinkle as we head into the finals against the Golden State Warriors. However, staying here in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Celtics were more competitive in Game 3 and Game 4 without Isaiah Thomas. Is that a coincidence?
I don't want these last couple of games to damper what Isaiah Thomas has brought to the Boston Celtics. Here was a guy that once he got traded there, he was a substitute. Just think about this year's playoffs. None of the star players on any of the teams started off as a substitute. He was just that last year. And this year, he's averaging 30 points, okay, leading that team to a number 1 seed. So I'm not going to allude any way, shape, or form to them being better without him. I just say that they're different, and they played a lot harder in these last couple of games.
I think it's safe to say that they're better defensively without him. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Not necessarily, because you have better defensive players out there. I didn't see Kyrie getting slowed down, did you?
No, I did not.
And therefore, on the other end, those guys weren't able to challenge him. Marcus Smart was 7 threes in the previous game. He only made 1 field goal in Game 2. Avery Bradley, Crowder, I applaud their efforts. They've been consistent.
Jalen Rose.
What up, Doe?
We all know on June 1st in Oracle, in Oakland, it is going to be the Golden State Warriors hosting the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA Finals. It is now time to start previewing that matchup, and we'll start with individual matchups. How do you see the starting five matching up against each other? Because it's not as clear as it is in some other series.
So we'll start with the backcourt, the Splash Brothers. 2 All-Stars, Steph Curry playing at an MVP level. One of the more efficient players we've seen not only shoot the three off the catch, but also off the dribble. Has found his game, is really looking A+ right now. Klay Thompson still being a lockdown defender. We don't talk much about the fact that when they show up at the arena, usually the best backcourt performer, that's who he's guarding. In particular, in the last game, he even went up front and was guarding Jonathan Simmons, who ended up being the Spurs' most effective player other than Manu Ginobili. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, Kyrie Irving's been on fire. Not just closing games, but throughout the game, getting timely baskets, doing it off the catch, doing it off the dribble, mid-range, finishing at the hoop. He's basically been their go-to player in the fourth quarter since last year's NBA Finals. And J.R. Smith, big shout to him and his wife. I was glad to see the news that Dakota, his young daughter, who was born 1 pound a few months ago, was able to be home at 7 pounds and doing so much better. That's the biggest thing I can say about them. Advantage, Golden State Warriors.
1 second. 1 second on that. I have to recognize these individuals. As someone who has had 2 babies stay in the NICU, the newborn intensive care unit, I want to give a big shout out to anyone that works in the NICU unit. The men and women that work there are angels, and what they do every day is fantastic. Big shout out to J.R. Smith and everybody that works anywhere in a NICU around the world. Back to the finals. So you think Klay Thompson will cover Kyrie Irving?
Absolutely. He's the lockdown perimeter defender. And so now you look at the pivot. That's where it's going to get interesting. Because Tristan Thompson has been an animal on the boards. Getting all of the loose balls, contested shots, getting rim runs, and even getting buckets, layups, dunks, uncharacteristically scoring
also hitting free throws.
High points.
Hitting
making free throws.
Hitting free throws. Who is Tristan Thompson all of a sudden? It seems like every offensive rebound, he feels like it is an insult to him if the defenders get it instead of him. It is excellent to watch him play.
And on the other side, Zaza Pachulia, who's dealt with the heel injury, missed the closeout game. He's been pedestrian in this year's playoffs. His biggest contribution was flagrantly hurting Kawhi Leonard by sticking his foot underneath him when he went up for a jump shot, which is a reckless play and should be called as such. But JaVale McGee filled in admirably. Because of his athleticism, a lot of their pick and roll action, in particular at the elbow, allows him to roll out and get lobs or throwback passes where he has the defender running at him, where he can go towards the lane, one dribble or baseline, one dribble, and finish. I would now have to say advantage, however, Cleveland Cavaliers at that spot.
It gets interesting with the 3 and the 4. You've got on one side Kevin Durant and Draymond Green. On the other side, you've got Kevin Love and LeBron James. Do you see them matching up with their natural positions?
I think not only should they match up with their natural positions, they need to match up at their natural positions. And these are the only 2 spots that they're all all-stars in this year's game. And when you look at it that way, it's almost like when you're playing at the park. When they say, check who got you, that's exactly what this is. I want to see LeBron James and Kevin Durant, 2 of the top players in the entire NBA. Both of the guys who I think are going to eclipse Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record in the NBA. I want to see them mano a mano.
I can't wait.
And Draymond Green, also Kevin Love. Draymond Green had his way with Love last year.
He did. I think Kevin Love has something to prove in this year's finals. And I also think that Kevin Love could be very effective if he's knocking down threes. He can bring Draymond out of the lane so he can stop creating the havoc that he does on defense.
Well, here's the thing for Kevin Love. Last year it was about fitting out. This year it's about fitting in. And not only his passing, and you mentioned his three-point shooting, but his rebounding. He's the best rebounder on the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm looking forward to watching him and Draymond Green go head up. Right now, that matchup is a pick'em, and rightfully so.
Klay Thompson has been a little bit quiet. He's only shooting 38% from the field in the playoffs. He's averaging 14 points a game in the playoffs and 36% from three. That's pretty far below his regular season numbers. Is that a concern for the Warriors heading into the finals?
How many days they have off? Oh, 9. No concern at all.
No concern at all?
Absolutely not. Because what does he do besides lock down on defense? He's a catch-and-shoot flamethrower on the other end that can absolutely get going to the point where he's put up more points in a game this season than any player on either squad. 60. He'll be just fine.
Is 9 days off too much rest?
There's no such thing as too much rest.
Then we have this from vocal Warriors owner Joe Lacob. He said, quote, "We were the better team, but they did win. We need a chance to go in there and prove that." Why is he saying that they were better than the Cavaliers last year when they lost a 7-game series?
They were better in the regular season.
Yeah.
They were better when they were winning 3-1.
Yeah.
They weren't better when the Cleveland Cavaliers were on a flight to Vegas to celebrate with the Larry O'Brien trophy.
No, they were not. No. And finally, we have this. When we watched the Warriors down the Spurs in San Antonio, they were given the trophy for the Western Conference Finals. They also were given NBA Finals hats. Zaza Pachulia's head was too big for the hats. What do you think this means as they head into the NBA Finals?
Nothing. He just got a melon. He just has a watermelon, a helmet. That's all. He's a big guy.
Key, head size.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Jalen Rose.
What up, dude?
Tom Cruise has confirmed that Top Gun 2 is happening. Are you fired up about Top Gun 2?
No.
What? I thought Top Gun would be in your wheelhouse. It's got planes. You were probably like 12 when it came out. You're trying to tell me you haven't seen Top Gun like 16 times?
No.
You really don't watch movies unless there's a bunch of black people in them.
Well, it just has to be 50-50.
Okay, good.
Or a mob flick.
The NFL has relaxed their celebration rules. Now you are allowed to use the football as a prop, celebrate on the ground, and have group demonstrations. What does this tell you?
Sounds like an orgy.
It's great. That brings us right into our next topic. Thank you so much for that transition. The owner of Triple D's Landing in Kiln called the police Wednesday after discovering 3 people having sex on the eatery's deck in broad daylight. I have a lot of questions about this. Number 1, why wasn't the restaurant open if it was broad daylight? Number 2, the 3 people that were having sex, this threesome, they all worked together and were colleagues. Number 3, this is also the hometown of Brett Favre. Do you think Brett Favre was involved?
Of course not.
Why do you think they were having sex on a deck in broad daylight?
They probably lived with their parents or their mates, and they were cheating on somebody.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, shout to them. And also Triple D's.
Shout out.
Leonard Fournette was arrested for using a fake ID to gamble in a casino. You may think when I say Leonard Fournette that I'm talking about Leonard Fournette. This is actually Leonard Fournette's younger brother, who is also a running back, also at LSU. What? If you have a son named Leonard Fournette, why would you name your second son Leonard Fournette?
The same reason why George Foreman named all of his kids after him. You see a lot of people doing that, naming their kids literally after them or versions of their names. Who am I to judge? I never met my biological father.
That's fair. Lance Stevenson has a brother named Lance with a TZ, I believe, and his dad is also named Lance. What? I just try to work Lance Stevenson into any show I can. Odell Beckham has signed a huge shoe deal. It's rumored to be worth more than any other shoe deal in the history of the NFL. There are reports that it is worth $5 million a year he has signed with Nike. Do you think he is deserving to be the highest paid endorser for shoes in the history of the NFL?
When you use the term deserve, that means you don't get what you deserve. You get what you have the leverage to negotiate. And a lot of that has to do with his marketability playing for the New York Football Giants in that market.
I think that's fair, but wouldn't you say that he hasn't earned the on-field accolades that would usually lead to this sort of endorsement deal?
You sound like old man Jacoby. Here's what has happened now. His accolades are receptions, reception yards, and touchdowns. It's not necessarily Super Bowls. The bar has changed from when the elite champions in the game were the only ones that endorsed products. Now you may see Karl Anthony Towns, who's never played in the playoffs, on a commercial while they're happening. It's just how the game has changed. He is really talented. Odell Beckham is really talented. He's been on the cover of Madden. The spectacular one-hand grab, his ability to take a 10-yard grab and to turn it into a 75-yard touchdown is as spectacular as any player in the game. So rightfully so that Nike feels like they want to capitalize on his stardom and capitalize on the fact that he plays in New York.
I think his stardom has a lot to do with this. Like, it feels to me that the Kardashian rumors and the living at Drake's house and the social media stuff, it feels like all the things that surround him that make him this bigger-than-life character contribute more to Nike wanting to do business with him than his actual performance on the field. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I just said what I thought.
If that's what you're going with, I appreciate it. Thanks for your help, Jalen Rose. Odell Beckham was also working out with none other than Johnny Manziel. What? Instead of going to the Giants' OTAs. Famously, last year, he didn't go to the OTAs either, and he was at Drake's house hanging out with Kardashians. What do you make of him playing catch with Johnny Manziel instead of going to the OTAs?
You just alluded to it. He makes more money from his football contract than his NFL contract. So that now becomes where his priority is going to lie. Should I be at OTAs or should I be wherever I want to be? Just like he did last year.
At the Rio Olympics, a lot of Americans won medals. Well, here's what we are learning now. Those medals, at least 80 Olympians from America have had medals sent back to the organizers because they were rusting and they were flaking or they were chipping. What do you think about janky medals from the Rio Olympics?
Definitely send them back. Luckily for us, there isn't too many lingering effects from Ryan Lochte and the swimmers and the fiasco they got themselves into that evening. So that's probably what led to us getting fake medals. They're like, y'all just get out of here. Y'all just get out of here.
Here's the thing. I'm not sending the medals back. I'm demanding that you send me a new one, but there's no way that I'm putting a medal in the mail without getting one back. If I want a gold medal in the Olympics, I'm keeping that gold medal. You can send me a replacement, and then I will send you the old one. I would write a very strongly worded email to that effect. If they need some help drafting one, please reach out to me. You can find me on Twitter. There's now news that the All-Star Game is going back to Charlotte in 2019. What do you think about this move?
I like how the NBA handled it. They took a stand, and because they owned it, they forced Charlotte and North Carolina to acquiesce if they wanted to do business with the brand. And I like the fact that once they modified what they needed to, as it related to the NBA being satisfied, then it's only right you take the All-Star Game back to their town.
I think that's fair. Ezekiel Elliott was involved in another car accident. There's supposed to be a very minor head injury, no big deal, just for precautionary measures. They're not going to have him work out in the OTAs. This is his third accident in the last 2 years since he's been on the Cowboys. Should the Cowboys be concerned about him getting in all these car accidents, or should he be concerned about his insurance premium going up?
I think, there's a saying to avoid the unhappy and unlucky. I hope he's not falling into the latter category because he had a terrific season as a rookie, rushing the football, catching it out of the backfield. Him and Dak Prescott set the league on fire. based on how they performed on the field. I just hope that little things don't continue to haunt him away from the field that's going to take away from the excellence that he showed in his first year.
Jalen, you really have no interest in Top Gun 2 whatsoever?
No.
None?
Now, the new Scarface, when it come out, or when the new Tupac movie, when that come out, I'll be there.
Jalen, Power returns on June 25th.
No, it doesn't. It returns on July 7th.
I went to the website today, and it says that Power returns on June 25th.
July 7th.
They say this is a big rich town.
I just come from the...
Just wanted to play the music to get Jalen dancing in the studio. I'm telling you, I went to the website. It's coming back on June 25th. You're going to be so mad on June 26th when you find out there's a new Power that you missed. I can't wait to rub that in your face. Zach Lowe was on his podcast.
Get low.
And he is hearing rumblings that there is some serious interest from both sides between Chris Paul and, you'll never guess, the San Antonio Spurs.
Did Zach Lowe hear those rumblings on this podcast? We know he listens.
I don't think so. He does like reporting and like talks to sources and does things like that.
But he don't, so you saying he don't listen to our podcast?
I'm sure he listens to our podcast. I'm a big supporter of him. He's a big supporter of ours. He's a friend of the show.
Shout out.
My question for you is, if you had an offer from the Clippers that was much more lucrative than an offer from the Spurs, would you really accept the Spurs offer to join that culture and to be part of that winning franchise?
Is the more lucrative $40 million?
Something like that, yes.
Chris Paul ain't leaving $40 million on the table to leave Los Angeles, where his family is anchored, to go to San Antonio. I know the allure of playing with Kawhi, playing for Pop, playing in an arena where they have 5 championship banners sounds like the thing to do, but also being in Los Angeles, a familiarity with Doc Rivers. He's like a coach on the floor. He's become an anchor to that franchise, almost basically the straw that stirs the drink. I don't think he gives all of that up to chase championship glory.
And then we have some more rumors. Derrick Rose is a target of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Of course, Derrick Rose plays with Tom Thibodeau when he was in Chicago. Do you think that the Timberwolves would be better with Derrick Rose?
I do, because as you mentioned, Tom Thibodeau coached him in Chicago, where he actually won MVP, the youngest to do such in the NBA. He had a really good season with the Knicks, a couple of weird moments, like when he missed games and stuff like that. But when you look at his numbers and his productivity, it seems like he's regaining his athleticism for a player that's had multiple injuries to lower extremities.
With Tony Parker injured and perhaps his career over, the Spurs, are interested in Chris Paul.
Spurs, go!
There are also rumors that they're interested in Derrick Rose. Could you ever see that working?
I can see that working, because one of the things that we marvel about the Spurs is how they prolong players' careers with their training staff and rest. We saw this take place with Kawhi Leonard in the Western Conference Finals. Once he twisted his ankle 3 times in a week, I went right on SportsCenter like, oh, he ain't playing no more in this series. People looking at me like, you're not a doctor. I was like, I play one on TV. So I do think Derrick Rose would fit in either one of those situations, unless the Knicks just give him too much money to stay.
I don't think that he's in any danger of getting an offer of too much money from the Knicks. And he did say that he wanted a max contract. Do you think Derrick Rose is going to get a max contract in the NBA next year?
You know what every person wants at their job or place of employment? A max contract.
Yes. Do you know what every person really believes in their hearts and in their minds that they deserve?
They're underpaid.
And they should have a max contract. There is not an employee anywhere that says, you know what? I'm overpaid. I don't need a raise. I'm fine.
Nobody walking this earth feels like they're overpaid and underworked. It's almost like when you're watching a basketball game and it's a phantom foul. You never see somebody like, you know what? I ain't get fouled. Here, ref.
Yeah.
I don't want to shoot these.
It happens in pickup from time to time. So, The Lakers have the number 2 pick in the draft, and it seems like a foregone conclusion that they're going to pick Lonzo Ball with that pick, which, if you're D'Angelo Russell, can feel a bit strange, as he was just picked very high in the draft by the very same team playing the same position. Now, this is interesting. Someone on Twitter wrote that there's no way that they should draft Lonzo Ball because D'Angelo Russell is so good. D'Angelo Russell then liked that tweet. Is he being a little too loose with the Twitter fingers?
Yep. Well, you would think, based on his history with Nick Young and social media, that he would be a lot more careful of how he behaved for public consumption, especially now that Luke Walton is the coach and Magic Johnson is in the front office along with Rob Pelinka. I'm pretty sure that they're going to bring him into the office and give him a stern talking to about how to behave himself for public consumption. But with that being said, I don't mind him being a competitor. And I talked about this at the end of last season. It's easy for fans and media to speculate why players should tank so that the Lakers could get a top pick. And I was saying, as they won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in a row to close out the season, to anybody that will listen, don't you think Clarkson want to play in L.A.? Don't you think D'Angelo Russell want to stay in L.A.? Yep. You bring in Lonzo Ball, that means one of those guys have to go. So that's basically what he's alluding to.
You brought this up about Chris Paul, and now you talk about all these Lakers wanting to stay in Los Angeles. How much of a draw is the city of Los Angeles to professional athletes in basketball?
Let me see. Not much as it used to be. This whole allure of the large market team, Knicks and Lakers, and people running to that to try to get paid, that has officially been debunked when you watch LeBron James become an all-time great player in a smaller market like Cleveland. Yep. Kevin Durant do the exact same thing in OKC. Yep. Look at Russell Westbrook. I can go multiple sports and show you different players that were able to thrive right where they are. And lastly, we talk a lot about Paul George leaving Indiana to go to L.A.
Yep.
If you haven't paid attention, he has more commercials during these NBA playoffs than anybody.
Interesting. Yep. I want to get your take on this. It seems like the Heat and Chris Bosh and the NBA PA have all figured out a resolution that sort of, frees Chris Bosh from his contract with the Heat. Do you think he will play in the NBA again?
I don't, because if the Miami Heat were only about winning games, they would have put him out there. I think because they felt, while he may feel like he's able to play, and Chris Bosh is like a little brother to me, a former teammate, I would love to see him play. But once I saw that he was dealing with blood clots, it made me realize how serious his situation was. And I took it a step further. When he was doing a commercial with Arnold Palmer, who I think is 50 years older than him, it made me say, wow, he's accomplished a lot. He's made a ton of money. He's won a couple of championships. I want to see him healthy, and playing basketball puts him at risk.
We watched Manu Ginobili and the Spurs lose in the Western Conference Finals. Manu had a couple good games, some throwback moments. We're not sure if he'll come back and play next year, but a simple question for you. Is Manu Ginobili a Hall of Fame basketball player?
He is a Hall of Fame basketball player because you have to take into account what he's done internationally as well as in the NBA, being a champion. And so no question about it, he's going to be a first ballot.
Where would you rank him in terms of, all-time international players? Dirk Nowitzki comes to mind, Sabonis comes to mind, the Gasol brothers. Where would you put him in that?
He's amongst the top 5. You got to mention Sabonis and so many other players, but I think he ranks right up there. But there are multiple players that were international performers in the Hall of Fame. He's going to be right with them.
Dylan, and Dylan.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
You always say we don't force football topics on this show, okay? But we do this one thing. It's called Keep It Moving, where I will tell you something that is happening in the world of sports and pop culture. And if you want to discuss it, you will ask me to hit the brakes. And if you don't, we'll keep it moving.
We be moving, we keep it moving.
Are you ready?
Let's get it.
Kenny Smith said that his Rockets team would have beaten the 94 Bulls with Michael Jordan.
What?
You're really
Keep it
considering
moving.
this.
It's a hypothetical. I love Kenny, but
All hypotheticals got to get to keep it moving. Next, we have this. Terry Bradshaw called Nick Saban's Alabama salary shameful.
hit the brakes.
Okay. Alabama football coach Nick Saban will be paid just over $11 million this season, is under a 3-year contract extension that includes a $4 million signing bonus that was approved on Tuesday by the University Board of Trustees Compensation Committee.
Terry Bradshaw, loved him as a quarterback for the Steelers. Mm-hmm. An all-time great. James Brown, one of my mentors in this industry. I was fortunate enough to not only do a radio program with him, but he also took me behind the curtain to meet Terry and Jimmy and Howie multiple times as they do a terrific job with their NFL coverage. This was 12 to 15 years ago.
Oh.
I affectionately want to call him something that you call me. Old man Terry. You don't get what you deserve. You only get what you have the leverage to negotiate. And there's so much money in sports. Let me look closer to the camera. We live in a country that values sports and entertainment almost more than anything, and are so willing to pay top dollar for it, which is why these sporting situations are infused with cash. We don't necessarily value teachers or police or service or fire, but we value entertainment. Entertain us. We'll pay whatever. Exactly. And so because of that, Nick Saban is a benefactor. Oh, and by the way, he's elite at what he does. And because of that, he's going to get top dollar. That's just how it goes.
I will do anything for a $4 million signing bonus. It's just the idea. It's like, well, I just need to write my name on this piece of paper and I get $4 million. Like, I don't even need to read the contract. Like, whatever it is, I love the idea of signing bonuses. They make me so happy. Also, something tells me that the University of Alabama is making some money from football. You know what I mean? Something tells me they considered this salary and they decided that it was going to be mutually beneficial. So just something tells me that the University of Alabama is going to be fine.
Anytime someone is giving you a salary, it's a portion of what you're helping them make.
Exactly. It's like when Dave Chappelle signed a $50 million deal with Netflix. I thought it was crazy, and you were just like, look, if they couldn't pay him $50 million, if they didn't think they were going to make $60 million from him, they wouldn't pay him $50. So something tells me the people at Netflix and the University of Alabama are both going to be fine after overpaying these men.
Speaking of Alabama, big shout out to Coach Avery Johnson. Got a chance to run into him in San Antonio, and he's in the future looking to sponsor a JRLA student via scholarship to that university.
Nice. I'll send him a follow-up email just to make sure that happens. Colin Kaepernick is visiting the Seahawks today.
This is the worst kept secret in the NFL. Keep it moving. We know he's going to be on their team. Just sign him.
Tampa Bay got the 2021 Super Bowl. The LA Super Bowl has been pushed back to 2022.
Keep it moving. Unless you go into the game, nobody cares where the Super Bowl is going to be.
I did consider this. They're like, the Super Bowl is going to be in Los Angeles. Would I go to the game? The answer is no. I don't think I would even go to the game. Even if it's in my city, I'm still going to be on my couch by myself, eating my food and not spending any money. Yep. The raccoon has caused thousands to lose power. Do you want to know more?
What?
Yes.
Nice. Sometimes I feel like you hit the brakes on these just for me, and I appreciate it, Mr. Rose.
Well, I'm fascinated because there are times when you drive in a vehicle and certain critters run across the street, squirrels or raccoons, and you have to figure, sometimes birds are landed in the street, and you have to figure, am I going to slam on the brakes? Am I going to swerve left or swerve right or create an accident or cause a situation in traffic? Or am I going to kill an innocent wildlife animal that's in the middle of the street? I've had to make that decision.
Can I tell a story that I'm not that proud of?
Sure.
I was driving out of the Bristol campus at the Entertainment and Sports Programming Network. Behind me, about 50 yards behind me, was my friend, my colleague, my former best friend, Whit Album, excellent producer. Shout out to Whit.
Big shout, Whit.
Shout out.
And a bunny rabbit just leapt out from the side of the road into my path. I had no choice but to run over the bunny rabbit. Like, there was nothing else I could do without crashing the car into another car or a tree. I killed that bunny rabbit. Whit Alvum, who was following me behind me, had to watch the bunny rabbit, like, die in the middle of the road, and I don't think he has ever been the same since. Please don't judge me. I did not mean to kill that rabbit. But let's get back to this raccoon. And the Kissimmee utility authorities reported that the raccoon climbed onto a 13,000-volt piece of equipment at the utility's airport substation at 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday, causing 3 primary feeder lines to fail. That left over 5,000 people without energy. It has been reported that the raccoon did not survive. That's your latest in raccoon power news. Next, the Pro Bowl will be again played in Orlando in 2018.
Man, if you don't keep it moving, nobody care about the Pro Bowl. You could be a 19,000 alternate and make the Pro Bowl. I'm an NFL Pro Bowler.
Rashad Jennings wins season 24 of Dancing with the Stars over MLB's David Ross.
I love Dancing with the Stars, but we're going to keep it moving.
We're going to keep it moving. Kevin Durant has apologized for telling fans, if you don't like it, don't watch it.
Hit the break. We talked about that on this program. What ends up happening is when you're emotionally invested in the heat of the battle and you're sitting at a podium, it's like us against the world. Like, if they don't like how we getting it done, we can't win. Like, everybody says they want me to get a championship, so I leave OKC to come to Golden State, try to get a championship, then you judge me. People say they want to see us play well and blow teams out so we can show our worth and that we're one of the greatest team of all time. But then you say you want us to play in close games and you're mad that we swept all the way through. Now, they've had some luck, but a lot of great teams have had luck. In the first round, Nurkic was injured. I think Portland would have got a game.
Sure.
Utah was getting swept regardless.
No doubt.
Now, the Spurs, they were going to win at least 2 games, in my opinion, but Kawhi Leonard got hurt.
They're certainly going to win game 1. It's also one of those things where apologies are one of those things where there's levels to them, you know? Like, I feel like he doesn't really mean this apology. He's just like, whatever, everybody got mad at me, so sorry, I'm sorry. You know, like, anyone who's been in a relationship knows that sometimes there are 100% apologies, there's 50% apologies, and there's like 5% I'm just saying it even though I don't mean it apologies. Somebody tells me that this apology fell in that latter category. Next, Rob Gronkowski has a restructured deal with the New England Patriots. Do you want to hear about it?
Keep it moving. Rob is the highest paid tight end in the football.
I do not understand how the contracts in the NFL are still not guaranteed. Whenever the collective bargaining agreement comes up in that sport, they really need to iron that out. If they want me to write a strongly worded email, I am more than happy to do so.
I've talked about this for over a decade. It's not going to happen until the players stand on the table, unified 1,300 strong, and say, we're not playing football until we get guaranteed contracts.
Again, I'm more than happy to write a strongly worded email on their behalf. We're going to get to those voicemails in a second, but it seems like the sneak dissing trash talk between the Warriors and the Cavs has already started to heat up in advance of the finals. Here's what Ty Lue had to say, quote, this is him comparing the Celtics to the Warriors. Quote, the stuff they're running, it's harder to defend than Golden State's offense for me. As far as the actions and all the running around and all the guys who are making all the plays, so it's a totally different thing. Like, they hit the post. Golden State runs splits and all that stuff, but these guys are running all kinds of stuff, and Brad's got them moving and cutting and playing with pace, and everybody is a threat.
You know why? You know why?
Why?
They need to. They don't have 4 All-Stars. They don't play lineups where usually the guy that has the ball can actually go for 40 that night. The Boston Celtics need to have a workman-like offense. Give up a good shot to give a great shot, reverse the basketball, not shoot the first available jump shot from distance unless you're Isaiah Thomas. Also, create offense for teammates, drive, kick, and continue to work the defense. When you got the Splash Brothers between the leg, behind the back, Steph Curry can launch from half court. You got to check that guy. Same with Klay Thompson, but they do run a lot of sophisticated actions, which is why they've become the standard bearer in what we see for an NBA team and what others try to model themselves after.
Ty Lue doesn't really pop off too much to the media, and I think that he would be smart enough to not compare the Celtics offense to Golden State's offense. I think what he's doing is trying to pay a compliment to Brad Stevens and the things that the Celtics are doing, but it comes off as someone who is dismissing and dissing the Golden State Warriors, who have 9 days to just eat up all of these headlines and read way too much into all the things that the Cavs are saying. Don't you think he should have been a little bit more careful before this quote hit the media?
I don't think so. He's a former player. He's a championship coach. He has confidence in not only his squad and LeBron James, that he shouldn't bite his tongue in any way, shape, or form. But when the Cavs struggle, here's why. One, when they have lapses on defense, we talk a lot about J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert and their miscommunication that led to the Avery Bradley 3. But the reason why they were in that action, because they were guarding Kyrie's man, who was strong side guarding Jonas Jerebko, who they knew wasn't going to get the ball. But Kyrie's so elite on the offensive end, as we saw him take over in Game 4, obviously you got to find ways to make up for his weaknesses. All players have them. But with that being said, the second thing when I watch the Cavaliers when they're struggling, they isolate way too much, in particular in close games. They were amongst the league leaders in isolation plays. The good thing, however, is the people they have isolating, Kyrie Irving and LeBron James, they're terrific at it. And lastly, LeBron James free throw shooting. I'm going to keep saying this. In a 1 or 2 possession game, when it's about 40 seconds to go on the clock and the Cavaliers have the basketball, foul LeBron James. Put yourself in position to control a 2-for-1. I see them play multiple basketball games on a nightly basis, regular season and playoffs. I have never seen this strategy employed. Watch for it possibly to eventually take place.
So this is interesting. You would do a hack of LeBron James, like not just on the ball foul, like away from the ball, the way you see it being done with DeAndre Jordan or whatever. You could see that happening with LeBron James.
You only can do that during the course of the game. When it's 40 seconds to go, he has to have the ball.
Interesting. Well, you can also do stuff like run through a screen too hard. It'll be really interesting to see if they actually do that, and then to see if LeBron James hits those free throws. I am so excited about this finals. Another thing I'm excited for, the build-up. I feel like this finals will have sort of a Super Bowl feel. You know, there's those 2 weeks off in the Super Bowl where the media just retreads every single storyline and picks apart every single quote. I think that the Cavs will clean up this series at the end of Game 5, and then we will have 6 or 7 days just to analyze this and preview it and just go over and over it. And I am a nerd and I'm really into those sort of things. Do you think that will be the case?
It will be the case. We will regurgitate a lot of the same information, but it's necessary because we have the first trilogy in NBA Finals history. I anticipate it's going to be the most watched NBA Finals of all time, featuring 7 All-Stars total combined on the teams. It's going to be amazing. And also, we're not forcing football topics on this program, so we should be talking about the big game.
I'm so excited about the NBA Finals. I think that no one will forget this quote-unquote boring playoffs because this Finals will go 7 and will be excellent. If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us voicemails, and we'll play them on the show just like this.
Hey, Jalen Jacoby, it's Justin from Pasadena. I just wanted to know, would you think it's a fair assumption to say that Dwight Howard is the NBA's Terrell Owens, and that he might have a hard time getting in the Hall of Fame, though he probably will still go. Anyway, keep giving people what they want. Peace.
That's a great example. Appreciate the call. And I appreciate that comparison for a lot of reasons, except the difference between the two is Terrell's performance never waned. He was consistent regardless of where he played and regardless of the scenario, whether he was getting along with the coaches or his teammates. He still was able to put up elite level numbers. Dwight Howard's going to get into the Hall of Fame based on his longevity, which is way different. He's going to play 15 to 20 years. So when you accumulate the points and the rebounds, he's already won rebound titles. He's already been Defensive Player of the Year. So now when you add that up, you're like, that guy for the Hawks is going to be in the Hall of Fame? The reason why I throw that out there, so is Carmelo Anthony. Look at other players like a LaMarcus Aldridge. A lot of these players that get a chance to play a really long time and give you big-time statistics will have a legit chance to get in the Hall of Fame.
I love how many people just got really mad at you for saying LaMarcus Aldridge is going to the Hall of Fame. People take the Hall of Fame conversation so sensitively. Like, people are so sensitive about the Hall of Fame conversation, especially after this playoffs. LaMarcus Aldridge does not look like he is on track to be in the Hall of Fame. He might not even start the way things are going this year for the Spurs. Let's listen to another voicemail.
If he keeps up the production that he's had over the next 7 or 8 years, those numbers may be Hall of Fame worthy.
We'll see. Let's listen.
What up? This is Evan from Grand Rapids, Michigan. My question is for Jacoby. A couple weeks ago, you said you can always tell whether or not someone is reading their message for the voicemail. Is preparing your statement ahead of time a boss or soft move? Thanks for all you do. Keep giving the people what they want.
I'm always on the side of preparation. You know, preparation prevents poor performance. So if that's what it takes, before it did sound a little bit via his cadence from Grand Rapids, Michigan, that perhaps he was reading that. But I'm going to say it's probably a boss move. I'm going to say it's a boss move. But just know that if you make your girlfriend call on Tuesday in hopes to getting on Woman Crush Wednesday, we can tell if it is an authentic call from a real listener or not. Try to fool us. See what happens. Jalen Rose, we have a voicemail box. If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us a voicemail. And since it is Woman Crush Wednesday, where every Wednesday we celebrate the more intelligent, more reasonable, better looking, and more mature gender, the women in our lives. We have a couple female voicemails today. Let's start with those.
Go. Terrence, go. Boo. He was going to ask, is it a soft move or a boss move if you're a guy and you call in and make your voice sound like a woman so you can get on the show for Women Wednesday? Thanks, guys.
First off, thank you for the call. Appreciate the support. If you make it on the show, it's a boss move.
Mm-hmm. We have had a couple of male callers trying to perpetrate as female callers to get on the show Woman Crush Wednesday. Again, we didn't have a show yesterday, so we didn't get a call to action to get all of our female listeners to call in and leave voicemails. But we have a couple more female voicemails.
You're officially an honorary Detroiter. You use the term perpetrate.
Mm-hmm. That's a Detroit thing, Jalen?
Absolutely. That's the first time I've ever heard you say that. Perpetrating a fraud.
Jalen, you don't listen to me when I speak. Let's listen to another voicemail.
Hey, this is Madeline from Arizona. I have a question for Jalen. You always bring up Jason Voorhees, so I was wondering, what's your favorite Friday the 13th movie? And if you can describe the plot. Shout out to Reggie. Thanks. Shout out. Bye.
Thank you for the call. Appreciate the shout. Reggie will always put you on the program if you mention him.
Yeah, that's what happens every time. You mention Reggie, you're on the show.
I am a huge fan of Friday the 13th. Jason Voorhees and that mask is something I wore on Halloween for multiple years. I wish hockey players go back to wearing them. They were awesome. I love them that much. And the plot is clear. Kill everything in sight.
Just kill a bunch of people. One thing we learned early in this show is that you want a 50% person of color ratio in your favorite movies. However, the horror movies that you love do not have that level of diversity. So how do you make up for that?
You know, it's one of those things where perception isn't always reality.
Oh, okay.
I say that, but it's not true. Because I like mafia movies. I like scary movies. And anytime you've ever seen a scary movie, the black person dies while the credits are happening at the beginning.
That's a good point. Let's listen to another voicemail.
Good afternoon, Jalen. Good afternoon, Jacoby. This is Tom from the MKE with Team Futuristic on my way home from work. I want to respond to your question about power couples where the woman is the primary breadwinner. The Nashville Predators' Mike Fisher is married to Carrie Underwood. Mike made $4 million last year, while Forbes is reporting that Carrie made $26 million. Shout out to the cowgirl Casanova. My follow-up question is, why don't we hear more about hockey topics on Jalen and Jacoby? I know Jalen spent time in Canada, and we don't want to force hockey topics, but it is the playoffs, and hockey does have the best trophy in sports. Give the people what they want, because I am a person.
Tom, they always get us with when they recognize themselves as a person. Now we have to address all of the different things that Tom brought up here. Number one, we're going to go chronologically. Number one, I didn't know Milwaukee was called the MKE. Is that something you've heard before?
I heard Milltown.
The MKE is just, I don't know, it just doesn't roll off. He's like, I'm here with Team Futuristic and MKE. It sounds like something like a marketing materials or something, like a bank. Secondly, why don't we cover more hockey, Jalen Rose?
We can and should, except we don't normally get the kind of topics that excite us, and our audience doesn't clamor for hockey topics. But since he asked for one, they have had an amazing playoff. The hockey playoffs are as exciting as any in professional sports.
There's something about the chaos of a tie game, the last 3 minutes of a playoff hockey game, that is just absolutely thrilling.
Here's why they're more thrilling. Because you can be physical. See, the one thing about an NBA series, and the reason why no team has ever come from 3-0, A, the best team usually wins the series. Mm-hmm. 2, especially nowadays, you can't physically intimidate your opponent. That's something you can do in hockey. So you see it happen more frequent.
One thing I love about the sport of hockey, which makes it so thrilling for me, is no stoppages of play. You know, like those last 4 minutes or whatever, but there might be a face-off here and there, but there's no timeouts and go to commercial, and it's just chaos back and forth and back and forth. There's no shot clock. It's kind of a sloppy, but that sloppiness is chaotic and absolutely thrilling, in my opinion. Also, we have to address that Carrie Underwood makes more money than her man. And I have to say that we support a lot of things here on Jalen Jacoby. We support lobsters, we support statues, and we always will support power couples. Let's listen to another voicemail.
Hey guys, a baby kangaroo, it's called a joey. David, are you sleeping with the enemy?
That just broke my mind. I am the leading analyst of the upcoming guaranteed to happen kangaroo apocalypse. My wife happens to be named Joey, or Joie in French, and baby kangaroos are named Joey. This is something that I should potentially reevaluate in my life. However, I think I'm going to stay with my wife. Thanks for the call, though. Let's listen to another voicemail.
What's up, Jalen Jacoby? This is Steve K. from Connecticut. I need you guys to sell a debate for me. When you're meeting someone for the first time, it's a first date, do you wait outside, do you grab a table, or do you wait at the bar? Let me know what you think. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for the call. Appreciate the love. You 100% wait at the bar.
Ooh. Yeah.
Don't stand outside because it may be hot, it may be cold, it may be raining. You want consistency.
It's a little weird. If I'm the woman, I don't want to walk up and just like see some dude waiting outside for me. It would make me feel like I'm late, feeling a little nervous.
And number 2, there's nothing more awkward than when you're sitting down and somebody's trying to hug you and or vice versa.
You always have to stand up.
Yeah. You always have to stand up. It's tougher to do when you're at a table or you're at a booth. 3, you want to be at the bar, A, because you want to have a drink before they get there.
That's fair.
B, because now when they come, you want them to feel like they're a part of the decision of where you're going to be seated.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. One thing, there's one downfall to this, and I wish there was a more elegant solution, is let's say it's a busy bar, there's one bartender, and then the host comes over and says, your table is ready, Mr. Jacoby, and then I have to turn and say, 1 second, I have to close out my bar tab, but then the bartender's on the other side of the bar, so I have to get their attention, they think I want another drink. I just wish the bar tab could just easily flow into your dinner table tab at every restaurant. That would make me so happy. Yeah. Thanks so much for the call. Definitely don't wait outside. Let's listen to another voicemail.
Hello, this is Charlie from Ann Arbor, Michigan. My question is, if you get a game jersey from a player at the end of the game and you want to frame it, do you wash it first or do you just frame it after the game with all the sweat and dirt on it and everything? All right, thanks a lot for taking my call. You're far too kind.
Thank you for the call. We appreciate the love. You let it dry. You clearly don't frame it that night. You don't take it to the cleaners. You don't wash it. It loses the authenticity. You let it dry, and you frame it as such.
Oh, I'm taking it to the cleaners. I don't want someone else's sweat rings all over my framed jersey, and I'll just be sitting there staring at those sweat rings. If I get it framed and there's one little stain on it or something, I will just be, wow, I love that jersey, but I wish it didn't have that stain.
So you're talking about stains.
Yep.
See, you're speaking like somebody that's jaded, that's been working in this industry for 20 years, that could get tickets to any prize fight, any football, baseball, basketball game that they want. How many times have you sent something to the cleaners and it came back and you weren't happy with it?
Often. I'd probably say 10% of the time.
That's why if it's a piece of memorabilia, you don't take it to the cleaners.
What if there's a booger on it, Jalen? What if there's a boog? Jim Harbaugh would eat it if there was a booger on it. Jalen Rose, we have a very simple motto on this program. It is... Part of giving the people what they want is answering questions from the people. We've got some good questions today on our 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed. First question is from AK. He writes us a lot. Shout out to him. First off, R.I.P. Roger Moore. Question for you, Jalen. Has Jalen ever seen a James Bond movie?
I recall watching, I think the first one years ago, clearly when it came out, but I don't remember it.
That's fair. I think the answer to that is no. No. Uncle Mar wants to know, once Manu Ginobili makes the Hall of Fame, will he be the best bench player / sixth man to ever be in the Hall of Fame?
Absolutely, yes.
I cannot think of another player that was a substitute that is now in the Hall of Fame. I'm sure that they exist, but Manu Ginobili might be that.
I got another answer for you.
Okay.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with my little brother Jamal Crawford. Yep. If you watch his game, his handles and his ability to still score buckets but not have to play heavy minutes, he's won 6th Man of the Year 3 times. And I think he's going to get over 20,000 points at least.
Yep.
Stay tuned.
Here's the thing about that, though, is we won't find out until he retires in the year 2039. Because he could do what he's been doing for another 10 years. I would not be surprised if he was still getting NBA checks in like 5 or 6 seasons. And I'm not kidding whatsoever. Yep. Next question we have is from P.O. This is very important. Do you eat tacos vertical or sideways? Imagine there's a taco in front of you right now. How do you eat that taco? Do you turn the taco or do you turn your head? Great question.
I turn the taco because I'm not trying to get dizzy while I'm eating.
Yeah, I turn my head. When I eat a taco, I will tilt my head 90 degrees to the left side just so I can appropriately eat the taco, because I feel like if I turn the taco, I might lose some of the taco toppings. However, I might actually tilt the taco 45 degrees and my head 45 degrees, thus creating the optimal taco non-spillage eating situation. Next time I eat a taco, I'll be considering this. Thank you so much for the question, Pio. Father wants to know, if Jacoby signed a shoe deal and got his own shoe, what would you call them? The Jacobys. That's all. The Jacobys. You know? The Jacobys.
I would call them... I like that name.
Okay, good.
The Jacobys.
But there would be a mini, you know how it's always like, there'd be a minivan somewhere in there, on there. Like in the sole, there would be the shape of a minivan. So if you walk through a puddle, there'll be little minivans following you around. There'll be some personal touches. I've thought about this a lot.
It'll definitely be a popular shoe for stretch mark 4s in the league.
This is a great question from Jay Wiley. Explain how Tristan Thompson looks more confident than LeBron James shooting free throws.
Maybe Klay giving him some confidence.
There you go. There you go.
He's barking at the crowd. Every rebound, he barking at the crowd. He looking in the audience. But he's a friend of the program, and we've only had 3 guests.
I love Tristan
We got to get
Thompson.
him to come back on.
I love Tristan Thompson. Mr. Ron says, Melo to DC? Question mark. What are your thoughts? Carmelo Anthony to the Wizards.
I'm not mad at it. It seems on paper like it makes sense because Washington does need another player that can get buckets.
Mm-hmm.
And they can, in their half-court offense, morph into a team that takes advantage of matchups, go elbow and ISO-type game. So based on that, I do think he would be a pretty good fit.
As a Die Easy Knicks fan, there's a part of me that's like, well, what are we getting back? Are you going to give us like Kelly Oubre, and like Otto Porter and like expiring Marshawn Gortat contract? Like that is not going to usher in the next great era in Madison Square Garden basketball. I need Bradley Beal and some other players and some picks. Next, This one is from Chilling the Most. These days, the dress code is more relaxed in the office. Is it still a boss move to dress for the position you want? Huh.
It's always a boss move to be cleaner than the Board of Health.
I would say that it is always a good idea in a professional environment to overdress rather than underdress. I have fallen victim to this early in my career. One thing that you can always get honesty from is basketball players after they win championships and people that are leaving the job that you are at. Because when someone is walking out the door, they've already got a new job, they've already put in their 2 weeks, they don't have to deal with you anymore. It's no longer a loaded relationship. Like, you can be very honest with each other. And I had a friend, shout out to Jamie Cohen, who was leaving ESPN quite some time ago. I think it was like 2003, 2004. And I said to him, look, you're on your way out. What is one piece of advice that you would give me for the rest of my career, and it's completely free from any judgments or anything in our relationship? And he said this: perception is reality. You are showing up to work in an extra large t-shirt and size 46 jeans every single day and sneakers. I know that you do a good job. I know that you're intelligent and competent, but you don't look intelligent and competent. That is something that you should consider as you move forward with your career. And now I'm wearing jeans and t-shirts to work still 15 years later. Next, we have this. This one is from Alan. He says, the Warriors are undefeated since Klay signed the toaster. Soft move or boss move, crowdfunding to raise money to buy LeBron an oven to sign. I don't know if you know about this, but there's a Reddit user who was at a signing, an appearance of Klay Thompson's, and had Klay sign a toaster. I think it had something to do with him heating up or getting hot. I don't know why he signed the toaster, but since he signed the toaster, the Warriors have been on a tear. I don't believe that they're actually undefeated, but I think they only have one loss. Do you think the Warriors' success this season is 100% because Klay Thompson once signed a toaster?
Clearly the answer to that question has to be no.
No, the answer is yes.
And while the philanthropic endeavor is one I support, people to have their own foundations, take their time and energy to give back to the community, the hardest thing to get someone to do is dedicate their time or their energy when they're not doing it for PR and they're not getting paid. Usually when you watch public figures, they're doing it for those reasons. So for people to do things genuinely, I admire that. So I want to point that out, number one. Number two, Klay's been struggling. Especially shooting the basketball.
He has. They have been blowing out their opponents, but it is one of those things where, like, do you remember last year when Klay Thompson saved them in the Thunder series? Do you remember a couple finals moments where Klay Thompson just took over the offense? You haven't seen those moments thus far in the playoffs. Is there reason to be concerned?
No reason to be concerned. They have 9 days to get it in order.
You know what I'm doing the next 9 days if I'm Klay Thompson? I'm signing every toaster I see. I'm going over a friend's house, just breaking out a Sharpie, I'm signing toasters. I'm going to Walmart, going to the toaster section, just signing every toaster. Come on, kick me out of the store, call security, whatever you got to do. I'm signing every toaster that I see if I am Klay Thompson over the next 9 days. I expect to see him on Instagram signing toaster after toaster after toaster. Jalen Rose, do you have a toaster at your house?
No.
Now I know what to get you your next birthday. Toaster time for Jalen Rose. I'll get you a toaster oven. So
I got off the bread.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I'll get you a toaster oven. You can do some stuff in the toaster oven. Just re-gift it or give it away. Just let me live. Final question we have is very important. It's from Mick Brizzle. Again, soft move or boss move? Shaving your mustache, but not your beard. Soft move or boss move?
I'm jealous of anybody that has a beard because I can't grow one. But I don't like the way that looks. But I don't like the way that looks, so I have to say a soft move. That's my opinion on it.
I have to say that's a soft move as well. The only person I've seen really pull this off would be David Ortiz, Big Papi from Boston. He did a thing where he just kind of had a full beard, but right above the lip, it was completely shaven. And then Reggie's reminding me that Wolverine rocked it as well.
I'm not a fan of the thin mustache, the Pepe Le Pew.
Me neither. Your mustache should not look like lip eyeliner. You know what I mean? Either have a mustache or don't. Don't trim it down so little. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for listening on ESPN Radio, for watching on ESPN2 and ESPN News, and subscribing to the Jalen and Jacoby podcast.
You're far too kind.